Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to another episode of my F1 2021 My Team Career Mode, episode number 107 today in Season 7 for the Imola Grand Prix. If you guys did miss the previous one, the sprint race at the Chinese GP, then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one. Yep, that was our very first of 6 sprint rounds this season, and well, there was a lot of action to say. It was only 5 laps around Shanghai, and a bit of controversy at the end on the last lap of the Grand Prix. That last corner where Leclerc, spoiler alert, just decided to send it and try his luck at a corner that was never there for him. In the end, we did manage to salvage and keep position whilst we were fighting Yuki Tsunoda, but for a second time now, we actually got beaten by Pierre Gasly on the road, despite the feeling that I've had the complete measure over our new teammate Pierre Gasly. He is beating us right now in the championship, and he's had us over in both races. Obviously, some, things that didn't go our way at the Bahrain GP, but yeah, he actually showed really good promise around Shanghai, maybe finding his feet slowly in the car on the other side of the garage. And obviously that last time out was the first time we've ever done the sprint race in this series at all, and I asked you guys for your feedback at the end of the race, which I have taken on board. It seemed kind of, I don't know, bipolar, kind of half and half really. So many people saying that maybe 25% would just be enough because we need a bit more, a bit more laps to get a bit more action in there because the episode was quite short, but at the same time that maybe defeats the purpose of it being a sprint, because the whole point is to save me time basically on the race, on the editing, to actually get the full season in. And also a sprint obviously doesn't actually have a pit stop in, and I don't believe there is a mod out there that can remove the pit stop in a 25% race. So I don't know, we'll kind of see how we go through the 6 sprints, kind of like real life with the FIA. I will kind of tweak the sprint format maybe every for those 6 episodes and kind of see what works best, kind of like they have done in real life, where on the fly it seemed like they were just making it up as they go along. But I, for one, was still really happy with the amount of action we got in those 5 laps around Shanghai. Lando Norris took the win ahead of Max Verstappen in his new Ford Performance Motorsport car. That car is looking pretty damn handy in the hands of him. Obviously Hamilton did get that podium at Bahrain, but it was kind of back to normal, back to reality for him. And we've already seen what the new Porsche F1 team can do, alongside obviously the rebirth Red Bull Racing out of the AlphaTauri team from last season. Drogovic has got quite unlucky, the new starlet of this series, of this alternate universe in Formula 1. And, Leclerc, he looked rapid at Bahrain with that pole position, and then Porsche really didn't have the out-and-out pace around Shanghai. But before we get into qualifying, this video is sponsored. Yes, today's video is sponsored by Surfshark VPN, a great VPN service, easy to install and really easy to use. And it's also jam-packed, full of features, and can be used on multiple devices, whether it be your phone or desktop. Whether you're traveling and don't want to be locked out of your bank account, or be just safe on public Wi-Fi, or you want to go unlock geo-locked content, or just want to actually just protect your data, simple as, then Surfshark VPN is for you. Now, one of the biggest things I use Surfshark for, and probably be the most used to you guys also, is unlocking geo-locked content. It's really annoying when you go to watch something on Netflix and it's not available in your country. Well, with this you can unlock it, and even more so for us guys, Formula 1 fans, you can even use it to maybe watch Formula 1 on geo-locked services potentially. Just with a few clicks on the extension on the top right, you can move to the country you need to be in technically to unlock that content, and in a few clicks and a refresh, you're done. So if that sounds good and useful for you guys, then be sure to go check out and get Surfshark VPN with the link down below in the description, and use the code aarava at checkout for 83% off and 3 extra months for free. That's actually ridiculous. I've only just heard myself say that, and that's actually a mad deal. 83% off, 3 months extra. Use the code aarava, link below. Unlock F1 content, unlock Netflix content. What more could you want? And, well, we're met with a absolute wall of precipitation. It is heavy rain to kick off Q1 here on Saturday, so this just throws another spanner into the works. And not only have we got this to contend with on the Saturday, it's going to be all dry, it seems, on Sunday. So So we've set the car up for the race, of course, so it's a dry setup. We've not really done anything to help us out in the wet, apart from on the fly, obviously, in the cockpit, changing the differential to open it up a little bit more, to allow a bit more traction, maybe, on those tricky exits. But it's basically a case of filling up the car with consecutive laps of fuel, and then just going for it and sussing out, getting a bit more confident every single lap. So this is a second run, this is, on this same set of wet tyres, and we've gained about, nearly half a second in the first sector alone. We'll gain even more through into the last few corners, and by the time we get to the line, about 1.5 gained on that second lap, just getting confident with where, how late we can brake, how early can get on the power. But then it gets to intermediates right in the session, so this is ever rapidly changing in terms of the weather system here around Imola. So we're down to P13. We were P1 with the full wets. Now everyone's setting their lap times on the green wall. Intermediates, we've gone purple first sector, green the second, 2.2 seconds gain. So the track's getting so much quicker across the line for a crucial lap on the inters at the very death there to get us through safely into the next part of qualifying. But you just never know, really. Usually it's a formality for us to get through, but with the rain, you just can never tell how much improvement the AI are going to make through through the laps when it goes from full wets to inters, for example. And so, like I alluded to, Lewis Hamilton, back to reality for him as he's knocked down Q1 in the Ford. Meanwhile, Verstappen's way up there in P8. So, yeah, it's tricky times for him, and also tricky times for Ferrari. Really not looking that great this season in comparison to last season in the hands of Esteban Ocon. For us, though, in through to Q2. Not great start for us, though. Fuel system fault, which will make us sit out the first 2.5 minutes.
We've got a situation at the moment. Seems like something's off with the fuel injection system. We're looking into it, but we're going to be out of action for a few minutes.
But in reality, it won't actually matter because it's actually getting drier and drier. Right now, it is still time for the intermediate tyres. The AI, they're going to go out now. We're just going to wait out the fuel system fault and then also just wait for the track to get as dry as possible. So that means right at the end of the session, with about, just over 2 minutes to go now, we're all going out because obviously, just like in real life, it's the best time to go out right at the end. The track's as dry as it ever has been. If we went out earlier, it would have been dry, but potentially the track would have still been a bit cold, maybe a little bit greener. Now, with a few cars ahead of us, rubbering up the circuit, rubbering up the racing line, we may have a better chance. And of course, we only have one lap here. Everyone else got a banker on the intermediates. Not that it'll matter because, in theory, just even a tame lap on these dry tyres should get us through. But of course, now this season, because it seems like everyone is so bloody close together, separated, the whole grid separated by about, 8 tenths here down through. We need to make sure this is a good lap. It is going to be a stonking one, actually, in the end, to be just ahead of our bitter rival from last season, the reigning world champion, Antonio Giovinazzi. There in second place. Pierre Gasly gets knocked out in P11, so he will be best of the rest for a free tyre choice, so that may come back to help him a little bit, maybe, in the race. But again, this is why I say it's quite surprising that, right now we're being beaten by Gasly in the championship, because I feel like over one lap and just generally with the car, I've definitely got it over him because he's knocked out for the second time in 3 races here in Q2 since the season began. But obviously from P11, maybe some strategic advantage could be made for him on that side of the garage. We'll just have to see on Sunday. So we go ahead then to the top 10 shootout, and we've got some big hitters in here. On our first flying lap of this session, we've got 2 new sets of soft tyres to use, of course, because we easily got through into this session on that one run last time out. But we're catching Leclerc, who's not on a quick lap. He's actually on his out lap here, and he's going to hold us up quite a fair bit in the last 2 corners, potentially, up to 3 tenths, I feel. He lost there just with Charles not picking up the pace. He's got plenty of room ahead of him to start that lap a little bit quicker, so I just don't know what was going on. Bit unfortunate. It happens, though, sometimes, but I wasn't expecting it in the top 10 shootout because you have only 10 cars going around. Most of the time you can find the space, but it is what it is. We're in P8 then, so we have to make this a much better lap. Giovinazzi goes for a another one, as does Leclerc, I think, and Tsunoda, but a couple of others not out. So I don't know whether that's just they don't have the tyres or for whatever reason they're not gone out again. But we go again then for the second time in this top 10 shootout, getting about 1.5 tenths in the first sector and another 1.5 tenths in the second sector to be about 3 tenths or more up. But now this is where the big difference comes in. About a 10th gain in that second last corner, a further 10th in the last one. So we lost about 2 tenths then, with Leclerc holding us up as we go to the line from P9 up to P4 it's going to be. But what did I say before about Leclerc and Porsche being there in qualifying at least? They get another pole position together, and it's Antonio Giovinazzi for Lotus Renault on the front row alongside him, massively ahead of Lundgaard. I don't know what happened to Lundgaard, but he did an atrocious qualifying. So much like last season, showing Giovinazzi is just outdoing and dragging that Lotus car to places it shouldn't be. Drogovic on the second row alongside me. So some familiar names from the stars of last season mixed in with some old ones here, with Leclerc right up there. And like I said, the two McLarens maybe lost a tiny bit of pace this weekend in over one lap, it would seem, but in the race might be a different story. But they're still just there inside the top 10, getting those consistent points that they have done the first 2 rounds. So it's going to be interesting. Verstappen down in P9, was expecting more from him, and there might be more to come from other people outside the top 10 as well in the race, because it was a bit of a topsy-turvy qualifying. So let's go to the grid for the Imola GP.
Hello there and welcome back to Imola, home circuit of the Scuderia Ferrari. We expect to see a lot of local supporters in red today. They've all turned out for what we have every expectation of being a sensational event here at the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. 3.1 miles of track here at Imola, featuring 19 turns, 9 to the right and 10 to the left. Remember that Imola differs from most other Formula One circuits as it's driven anti-clockwise. Let's hope no one forgets that today. The exit from turn 18 will probably be the setup for many of today's overtakes, leading as it does into the longest straight of the circuit and its only DRS zone. And as always, a man with plenty of racing experience joins me in the commentary box. Today it's Anthony Davidson. Tell me, Ant, you're no stranger to surviving the melee of turn 1, so how do you keep out of trouble when there's so much going on around you?
There are 3 main things to worry about there, Crofty: positioning, awareness and discipline. First, you have to put your car in a bit of space and make sure you have room to react to what the others are doing. Then you have to watch your mirrors and listen to the sounds around you to get a sense of where everyone is. And finally, just don't get too greedy. Just because a gap exists doesn't always mean you should go for it.
Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks for today's race. A fantastic effort from Charles Leclerc yesterday puts him on pole, edging out Antonio Giovinazzi, who'll start from P2. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Drogovic, the owner driver, Yuki Tsunoda, and Stroll, Norris, Joe, Verstappen, and Christian Lundgaard, Gasly, Sainz, Daniel Ticktum, and Russell, Mick Schumacher, Armstrong, Esteban Ocon, and Lewis Hamilton, Eilert, Aitken, Matsushita, and Valtteri Bottas begins the race from the back of the grid. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track.
It's definitely going to be a tricky one this afternoon. Imola, very much like Bahrain, has that split strategy advantage of the one stop versus the two, but the two stop is available there and actually, put forward by our engineers in game, so it's a very viable option. And the thing with the one stop is you have to commit to it and you have to go really quite long into the race then on your first set of tyres to actually make it work. As I found out, I tried to make it work after deciding to do a two stop at first, and last season that ended up with me getting a puncture on the very last lap, so we want to avoid that. So it's going to be very tricky to call in the first opening laps, but I guess we kind of just use our intuition with what everyone else is doing around us, and we'll just see how it filters out by the end of the 32 laps. But here we go then, the round number 3 of season 7 as we go to 5 red lights here in Imola. 5 red lights are out and we're underway, and off second place Giovinazzi gets the start of his life, and the Italian, the reigning world champion, he's into the lead of the race. Leclerc second, defends against Drogovic, the Red Bull, though, trying to get second place. The two make a little bit of contact. We're able to defend against Yuki Tsunoda, Lawrence Stroll, as the Canadian tried to go on our outside there. We blocked his path off and just consolidated P4. Didn't lose any positions, but didn't gain any either. It wasn't the best start for us. Got quite a fair bit of wheel spin, but that was very much not the case for this man. Antonio Giovinazzi driving for his life still in Season 7, it would seem, in that Lotus Renault. Great getaway, and again, for the second time, Leclerc and Porsche lose their pole position, their first place, right off the bat, early doors on the opening lap. They really need to try and fix that if they want to try and convert this and, actually get some solid points on the board, because they really have underperformed so far in this season. As we now move on to lap number 2, looking to get Drogovic. Can we go around the outside of the Brazilian? He's defensive. It's going to be a bit awkward for him, though. We have a little look around the outside, but as I tried to dance my car around on the left-hand side, the rear end snapped, having to catch that massive amount of oversteer. And we saw last season, Drogovic is a very hard man to actually overtake. Really good wheel-to-wheel racing, and that Red Bull car has also looked pretty damn aggressive so far this season. But let's try and see if we can get him into the onto the end of lap 2, into lap 3. He's looking pretty vulnerable, maybe into the last 2 corners. He's real slow. We're going to go for the dive. We're inches away from making contact on the right-hand side, but we've got it just before the final corner, and we're able to get a pretty decent exit, really wide, right to the edge where the gravel trap is, as Giovinazzi sets a fast lap of the Grand Prix to maintain his lead just about ahead of Leclerc. We look behind, and in drag race, we've got the measure, actually, of that Red Bull, it would seem like. Obviously, Honda versus Honda power, so not too much between us two, but we're able to pull away and now try and chase off these two. But it's going to be Leclerc doing the massive amount of chasing on Giovinazzi. He's got DRS open on lap 5 here. He's on the grass a little bit, but Leclerc goes for a move on the home favourite, and he's going to get back up into P1. Bit of contact made through the right-hander. Ultimately, Giovinazzi, after trying to hold it through side by side, could not, and he's down to P2, and we'll have to lick his wounds and go again. Leclerc, though, up into P1. We saw that at Bahrain, though. He was able to get into the lead again, but then there just was that kind of case of them not, Porsche not being able to keep it and have that overall strategy and outlook on the race. Obviously, a fresh new team birthed out of the old Red Bull team after Lawrence Stroll bought it for his son. So plenty of homework to do for Porsche still this season. Let's see, this will be a real test. But now here comes a pretty crucial part of this race for Giovinazzi, the man who just lost the lead, because he's looking a bit slow now, and we are gaining on him. Bit of tyre wear there on the right-hand side. You can see 33% on the front, 37 on the right rear, so you have to watch out for that. And, this is why it's so tricky at Imola, because you have to commit for such a long first stint if you want to do a 1-stop. But also, if you want to do a 2-stop, the earlier you go into the pits, potentially the better, because the undercut's so powerful. But for now, we continue on. Lap 6, DRS open, and we may be able to actually even overtake Giovinazzi. We come from a long way back, but with DRS, we're able to get alongside him. We jockey for position, ultimately going for this switch move now, getting to the left-hand side of the circuit, drifting our way through the next left-hander, and it's actually a really lovely overtake up into P2 on our rival from last season. Meanwhile, Verstappen going for a move right around the outside of Norris. Not quite, though, for the Ford man, and Gasly now trying. Oh, Verstappen goes for the dive again, and he's now still side-by-side maybe with the McLaren. He's really having to give it a good go. He's going from left to right, and he's hustling and harrying the McLaren everywhere, and he might actually do this. Hang on a minute. Max Verstappen, this could be absolutely sensational. No, not quite, but nearly. Wow, Verstappen, it's such a difference to last season, of course. He's actually got a car that can actually fight and actually try and have a go at other teams, and he must be loving life compared to the last half of the season. But ahead, we've got Stroll. Is that maybe a move? The Porsche versus the Red Bull. This is always going to be a bit of a tetchy fight, of course, because you got the team that used to be Red Bull now fighting the new team that is Red Bull, of course, after that divorce. But Red Bull and Drogovic are in then. Early pit stop onto lap 7, so Drogovic has pulled the trigger for his 2-stop, and that could have a domino effect on all of us, because I am now going to come in on lap 7. We're losing a bit of pace to Leclerc, not really gaining on him too much, so we're in now for that first pit stop of 2 onto medium tyres. Now, I know a few other people, and even the strategy screen from our engineer said a 2-stop with 2 sets of soft tyres. Right now, I'm going to opt for the mediums to allow me to maybe think about it either way. away because I don't think we actually have any new soft tyres. So maybe at the end of the race, I might want to actually just strap on a new set of mediums. That might work better. But if we can go long enough on the mediums, U-set could take us through to the end just fine and obviously give us that, you know, just out-and-out performance initially. But meanwhile, back at the sharp end, Leclerc continues on then for another lap onto lap 8. Giovinazzi as well, Tsunoda, Stroll, and Verstappen and Gasly. So we've gone quite early here, so we're very much doing a two-stop. I mean, but whether these guys do, I don't know. Drogovic is definitely on one, but this is interesting. Have we gone too early? Have we been duped by Drogovic there? As we now see Gasly and Verstappen going wheel to wheel. Gasly gets the elbows out, and he's into P5. He's actually had a very quiet, but very tidy first stint. Remember, started P11 behind Verstappen, is now ahead of him and a bunch of other cars up into P5, and that was a really nice overtake as well, really late on. Seemed like Verstappen wanted the outside line, so Gasly just went, okay, we'll switch it back to the inside and then get you that way, as we watch on Russell behind fighting Ilott in P13. The Aston Martin's a little bit lower down than they'd be liking, and you know, for the pace that Russell showed last episode around Shanghai, he'll be disappointed with that. Meanwhile, myself, obviously P16 on that first pit stop. A lot of people yet to make one. Drogovic behind me in P17, and that's Lando Norris in P22 with another pit stop, I believe. He already made one earlier, so he is way down the order. So last race's sprint winner is really not having a great time around Imola. Meanwhile, his teammate Tsunoda is flying now on the softs. Lap 10, they're still going on these softs. Tsunoda up into P2. Giovinazzi, it seems like he's maybe overdue a pit stop because he's just going backwards and backwards from initially that great getaway in P1. He's now been overtaken by Leclerc, myself, Tsunoda, and he's down to P3. Could be worse on the road by the time he comes in, and eventually people will start coming in. Gasly and Verstappen were in on that lap while Tsunoda was overtaking Giovinazzi there, but this is also a replay to show Gasly had some sort of damage, maybe with Verstappen with that contact, because they got pretty damn close, but for whatever reason, Gasly now had to make a pit stop with a front wing change, so that will lose him a couple of seconds. So Verstappen's got back past him, and that will push him down the order a couple of positions back. And finally, on the next lap, the race lead is in. Leclerc comes in for his pit stop. He's on a set of soft tyres, so no wonder he went long. Looks like he's trying a super aggressive two-stop, but here we come, down on the left-hand side, and we're through past the man from Monaco and up into P10, but it could be P1 on the road in terms of that group that are doing a two-stop, but Giovinazzi and Tsunoda are still out there somehow, so I suspect they may be converting to a one-stop if I had to guess, but Leclerc doing an aggressive two-stop, another set of soft tyres, and that will give him so much acceleration that even though we're deploying ERS up this hill, the Porsche is fully alongside us, so we squeeze him, and he has to back out of that, but we only just narrowly maintain track position there, so we've got to try our all best to try and keep Leclerc behind us, because of course, being on the medium tyres, if we can keep him behind, keep Drogovic behind, will absolutely ruin his stint, because he should be quicker, and he is quicker right now, as he's overtaken us in the chicane. We tried this switchback in the middle of it to try and get the better kind of acceleration, didn't quite work out, into the second last corner. Leclerc, very, very cheeky on the defence to kind of brake check us a little bit down into that corner, and we have to go again, and we'll have DRS though, so this may be an easy re-overtake maybe on Leclerc, as we'll pull him in now with the rear wing open, gaining, is it going to be enough? Even to ERS, that Porsche is pretty damn quick alongside him into turn one. Leclerc though outbrakes us. We're going to switch it from right to left. We're on the inside now. It's a similar move to the one we made on Giovinazzi, and he's worked out even better this time because we didn't have that massive drift on the exit, and we're back up into what is now P6 since some others have made their pit stops, but Tsunoda still goes on. Giovinazzi's finally in, but Tsunoda's going on for even longer. That McLaren, I mean, I don't really think the McLaren used to be great on its tyres historically in this series on this game, but Tsunoda may just be the new tyre whisperer here, going on 12 laps on the softs, whereas Drogovic only went 6, so double the amount of laps. Lundgaard as well going longer than his teammate as well, but Tsunoda's in finally now for what will probably be his hard tyres. Lundgaard as well, I believe, will be coming in, but Russell in P3 now. He started on on medium, so he'll go even longer and could inherit a very good position, because when you start on the mediums, you're doing the one-stop. Well, he's not had the same sort of tyre wear, obviously, as those guys on the softs, as the other two come in, and so that will jump us up the order. But who will be ahead, myself or Leclerc? He's going to go for a move and squeeze him right to the wall. Pretty much a piece of paper separated his right front and the concrete there, as Leclerc waltzes round the outside to get back up ahead of us into P2 on the road. Russell out there leads the race, is behind. It is a fierce fight between, I think it's Lance Stroll and Guan Yu Zhou, all happening just behind a very lofty Max Verstappen, doing very well still in P6 in the Ford. Gasly P9 ahead of Giovinazzi, so Giovinazzi's fallen away quite a bit, as, oh, there's some gravel lines there, as some cars have maybe gone off, and there's a safety car out. For the first time in this race, 13 laps in. We've had so much action. I don't know how we're only 13 laps into this bloody race. Still got like 2/3 to go. Absolutely insane stuff. But Russell's in then. So George Russell will get a free pit stop then under this safety car. So he will be in a really good position, I reckon, by the end of this race, because he's already on the one stop, let alone getting the free pit stop as well. So we're going to have to watch out for that. But Leclerc then is into the lead, and I'm in second place. So this has become a battle for the race lead then now on the restart. A very late call for the safety car to come in, I must say, on the last corner. Very peculiar, but either way, we get going. The tyres may be a bit colder than usual, so we have to watch out into the first brake zone. But we've got a great run on Leclerc. No DRS, of course, just pure ERS, and the pure slipstream coming, go around the outside. Oh, we're a bit on the curb though. Have to let off the throttle to make sure we don't spin in the rear out, and this is still wheel-to-wheel stuff. Myself and Leclerc, who's going to come out on first through the next left and right-hander? Leclerc just about keeps it ahead. I don't know how he's doing it, but he's placing his car so pin perfect here. It's becoming such a nuisance in this race so far. And we'll go again at lap 18 down towards turn 1. Full use of ERS again. We're trying the outside line. I don't know why, to be honest, because Leclerc's got that inside line covered in the Porsche, and he's going to maintain the P1. Meanwhile, Gasly behind us, he's up into P3, and Verstappen P4. Tsunoda tumbles down the order because he's on the hard compound, remember. Gasly and Verstappen are not. They're both on the soft side, I think. So even though the hard tyre may give the track position, you're seeing why I like to avoid it, and quite a few others do, because it's so hard to warm up and rubber in. And so Tsunoda's down 2 places. So Gasly's actually turned this quietly into a very good race for himself in P3. And Verstappen, well, he's in a top 4 right now. Giovinazzi, Tsunoda, Stroll, Guan Yu Zhou, all on the hards. Russell as well. All those guys may come under attack by Dan Tickton behind on the softs and others once we make our pit stops, because those guys, they're all going to the end now. So Tsunoda will probably be the one that inherits the race lead, but Verstappen's on the softs, Gasly as well, Leclerc. I'm actually the odd one out on the medium tyre, but all of us will make a second pit stop and be chasing down that pack of hard tyre runners. But anyway, back to the action though, and the matter at hand on lap 19, and this time, unlike the previous 2 attempts, we're going to fly past Leclerc with DRS, and he narrowly misses rear-ending us, Leclerc, as we flew past the man, but then try to go defensive immediately to stop him outbraking us on the inside. And so it's meant that he's actually got himself a little bit flustered, and Pierre Gasly has gone round the outside to make it a 1-2 for our team. Leclerc's got it all crossed up there. I don't know if he made a little bit of contact with our rear end. If he did, he might have damage, but it doesn't look like it because he's still going at an okay pace. But Gasly pulling away, and he's got the speed at the moment. It's a 1-2 for our team, but now for the first time here, could it be myself versus Gasly properly this season? No, we're going to have to wait for that first ultra close battle with myself and Pierre Gasly this season, because he comes in and Leclerc and Verstappen follow suit on the soft compound. Of course, they can't go as long as I can on the medium, so that's what we're doing. Lap 23, we're going long, trying to extend this stint to make sure that we're giving ourselves the best chance to use those soft tyres at the end, because I have decided to go on to softs at the end. We've got only a used set, so the longer longer I can go on these mediums, the better. Meanwhile, down the order, Gasly's P11, then Verstappen P13. You've got Leclerc and P16, so quite a mixture there off that second round of pit stops. I wonder maybe if Leclerc had to make a front wing change, that's why he's behind those two. I would say, if I had to guess, I would say so. That's why. So a bit unfortunate for the man on pole position today. We're in now, finally though, lap 24. So it will be Giovinazzi that leads this race legitimately from Tsunoda, Stroll, Russell, Lundgaard, Schumacher, Hamilton, Bottas. Those are all the cars. Ocon, all those cars are going to the end on hard tyres. Gasly, myself, Verstappen, Drogovic, and the likes of Leclerc as well, all looking to try and come back through on the soft compound. But it's going to have to take some real quick driving from all of us on the softer compounds, and we've got to hope that also the tyre wear starts to creep in a little bit for all the hard runners, as we're now out in P13, out the points at the moment with, only 8 laps to go, so not even that long to jump up the order. So it's the classic case that happens at Imola so many times. You know, your reward for the top 10 is a very difficult two-stop strategy, and, you know, we've seen from Bahrain, I don't think the one-stop was viable for us, maybe for some others, but with the tyre wear we had at Bahrain, I mean, our soft tyres were punctured by the time where, like Tsunoda was coming in, for example. We make an easy overtake, though, on Drogovic that was, so that maybe that shows how much quicker we're going to be on these softs versus those hard tyre runners. So maybe we could just fly through these guys like nothing. The only obstacles here, though, to that plan is people like Verstappen also on, softer compounder tyres, the mediums. We'd taken a whole lap to actually catch up to Verstappen and fully overtake him there. We're sat behind him for the entirety of lap 25, so that was a bit frustrating. Can we now catch up to Ocon very quickly? Because whilst we overtook Verstappen, our teammate Gasly was overtaking him. So can we power past the Ferrari, the man who was in the championship fight with this last season, and very different kind of case right now, trying his best to get just one measly point, as there's a huge incident for Dan Ticktum at the curb. He spins it on the front side, tries to catch it, and puts the car in the gravel, and that's going to bring out a second safety car of the afternoon. On lap 28 we're going to come in, and so it's a 4-lap sprint to the end of this race, but that's bunched up everyone now, so we're right behind Ocon, as is Gasly, to the cars ahead. So maybe this is the chance for myself and Gasly to try anything to get up to maybe, dare I say, a double podium for the team, as we lunge down the inside of Ocon with ease up into P10. Ahead of us, Gasly, he's going to go for a move, is he, on Bottas? No, not quite, can't get the flying fin immediately, but we've still got 4 laps to go, 3.5, including the one we're on, and we are on much better tyres, but we've not got long left, and Imola is quite hard to overtake at, as Verstappen is finding as he tries to make a move. He makes a big lunge. Is that going to work out for him? Yes, it is. I spoke way too soon there. Verstappen with a brilliant overtake, and Ocon slow, but it's a great dive bomb by Verstappen there to get up into P11, but Ocon is parking up, and he's retiring out of this Grand Prix with 3 laps to go. The Ferrari man parks up, and welcome to Ferrari, Ocon. He didn't get too much of that last season. Instead, he was winning 3 races. Well, that's a bit more like the real Ferrari on the F1 2021 game. But meanwhile, on the 3rd last lap of this Grand Prix, hustling and harrying Gasly, but unable to make a move in the last corners. Have to be a bit more cautious with him being our teammates, the new partnership. I know we have a rivalry, but need to be careful early doors, as now we nearly hit the rear end, as this smoke come out of Hamilton's car. Everyone is dropping like flies. Lewis Hamilton, he was ahead of us in the points for Ford, but now he's out the Grand Prix, and Bottas ahead of us is now been overtaken by Pierre Gasly. It's a stonking move by the Frenchman to dive it down the inside, and that opened up the door for myself. Even Verstappen's going to get up there into P9, so it's really just the overtaking show from Gasly, myself, and Max Verstappen here today. But what a shame for Verstappen's teammate Lewis Hamilton. He was ahead of him again, like Bahrain, in a good points position, and he sadly had an engine failure. The first crack maybe from the Ford Motor Company. Second last lap of the Grand Prix then. Giovinazzi leads the way from Tsunoda, Stroll, Russell, Schumacher, and Lundgaard being chased down by Gasly, leading this train. But there's a big mistake for Schumacher, and he's in the gravel in the same place Drogovic made that mistake. That curb seems to be deadly for the AI today, but we're making a bit of a mistake and a howler on the rear end through that left-hander. The rear end gets all out of shape, and we invite some pressure in by Verstappen, and Verstappen tries the same dive bomb he did on Ocon. We're going to live to fight another day on lap 7, but the tyres are now going off. I think you can tell versus the medium tyre runners, my softs are going off a lot quicker now, and this was the risk, taking the soft tyres at the end of the Grand Prix, and you're seeing that now because Verstappen is hounding us so much here, and we're not catching Gasly. So is this going to be a third race now? A third race where Gasly is going to somehow beat us, even though we've had the measure of him this whole time, in qualifying especially, race pace wise, and he's just there with the luck of the rub of the green as Verstappen now goes for a move. This is on the last lap of the Grand Prix. Meanwhile, further up the road, Gasly makes a last dive and ditch effort to get up into a top 5 position. He's unsettled Christian Lundgaard, and now we're going to have an opportunity. So Gasly, bit of teamwork almost, as he unsettles the man in the Lotus Renault, and we're up into P6, Verstappen as well, P7. So it's like taking candy from a baby. These guys on the hard tyres, they're really struggling, but there's just not enough laps left for us to catch them because it's the last lap of the Grand Prix. Half a lap left of what's been a whirlwind race at the Imola GP, and Antonio Giovinazzi is looking likely to win this one, but I'm just in disbelief that again Gasly's somehow finessing his way ahead of us in this race, but I'm just struggling. Look at that last minute ditch effort. Verstappen on the outside of the hairpin. We go for this switchback, bit of contact made with the Dutchman, and he's just gone for it, and you can just see how short our rear tyres are. We had no acceleration up the hill, but Antonio Giovinazzi, the reigning world champion, will win the same race he won last season to kick off his campaign of wins this season. Across the line for us, behind Gasly, just ahead of a very, very rapid Max Verstappen. What a mega race that was at Imola. In the end of it though, Giovinazzi, that long first stint, really paid dividends for him. Russell as well, are way up the order. Madness.
So after a day of mixed fortunes up and down the field, we bring today's race to a close. Anthony Davidson, a resounding victory today. What set them apart from the rest?
It was a question of right place, right time today. We were looking at an entirely different race before the safety car came out, but they were able to take full advantage after the field had been bunched up.
Once again, it's podium time, and once again, it's a clear win for Alpine. Alpine have seen their fair share of success in Formula One, and today is proof that they've still got what it takes to thrill us all. Congratulations to everyone at Alpine.
The home favourite wins his home race again. It's the same first race he won last season for Antonio Giovinazzi. This time, though, he's already in the Lotus Renault rather than the Red Bull. But it's a podium for Lance Stroll again, because I think, didn't he get one in the first episode as well somehow? And Russell, at one point, I'm pretty sure he was down in P19 on the opening laps, by the way, or mediums. So to catapult himself up into P3, it's a first podium for Aston Martin in a long while, and it means myself and Russell, we just can't get rid of each other, can we? For a third season in a row, we're with each other in the standings. Gasly's up in P4. Giovinazzi takes the lead of the Drivers' Championship again. So will Giovinazzi be here to be fighting to actually defend his title? Only time will tell, but it's just so close right now, early doors. McLaren still lead, but it's 3 points back to myself, 9 back to Lotus Renault, 15 to Porsche, 17 to Ford. Those were gaps that we had between first and second place in the constructors last season towards the end. So yeah, there's still so much to play for, and yeah, it's been a very it's been a very randomized season so far. There are a few patterns forming a little bit, but there's also a lot of just uncertainty with the race pace, the tyre wear so far we're facing this season, and then just also just good or bad luck for a lot of the drivers. I mean, Leclerc got so unlucky today. He should have been right up there fighting where at least myself, Gasly and Verstappen were. So it is what it is, though. It happens sometimes, and I'm sure he'll bounce back. I mean, the pace to get 2 poles in 3 races, he'll be back for sure. But guys, if you have enjoyed that episode, be sure to hit that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula One content, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.